a two-part question. We have the big show in London coming up, All In, which is a very, very big deal. But the next weekend usually is Labor Day for All Out in Chicago. Will that show still be on in Chicago? And then the second question is, you did mention that it will be All In will be broadcast. Is that going to be on Bleacher Report, or is that going to be on a WBD channel, or will it be a pay-per-view in regards to the All In London?
You've asked two great questions, Corey, but because of the nature of announcements and timing, there are things I can't really address yet, but there are things we definitely will address. It's just a timing thing, and in dealing with our network partners, I think I definitely want to respect their plans as far as timing and rolling out those announcements. But we'll definitely be talking more about what's coming the weekend after All In, and what's coming as far as how we're going to disseminate All In, how it'll be available to watch coming up August 27th, live from London. And it will be available live for everyone here to watch, and we'll get all that information out soon. Obviously, a lot of exciting things coming up. We wanted to get through tonight with Double or Nothing and all the exciting things on tonight's show, and then we have so much coming up next month in June with the launch of AEW Collision, and of course Forbidden Door in partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we have a lot of big events coming up, and certainly also up in June, the launch of AEW Fight Forever. So it's one of the most important months ever in AEW this month. That's starting just days ahead, and I think we'll have a lot more to come about the two things you asked about, which are both great questions. That in time we'll be able to answer about what's coming after All In, and also how people are going to be able to watch All In on August 27th. If you got another question, I feel that I didn't get your question answered.
No, those are the two questions that I had, and I expected no answer, but that was
consistent. Thank you, Cora. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And who's next?
Over here, Tony.
Tony.
Oh, hey, Dave.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
Two questions also. The first one is basically a business question as far as the TV goes and everything. Is Collision, how long of a deal do you have for Collision? Is it concurrent with the deal that you already have, or is it of a different length? And also, just for tonight, is there anything as far as crowd reactions? Did you feel something in different parts of the show as far as crowd reaction that made you think, hey, this was really interesting, the crowd did this, or something like that, as far as like all through the show, there's a lot of unique crowd reactions.
I definitely think so. Well, going through it, first of all, I'm not really supposed to get into all the specific details of the partnership with Warner Brothers Discovery, but I would say that the time that's left on the previous deal, the current deal, is the same duration as what we were doing before, and it's a new deal. It's a different scope than what we previously had with Warner Brothers Discovery, which is exciting for us. So it created a new opportunity for us to do another 2 hours of Saturday night live wrestling, and it's really going to change the company. But the length of the deal is the same as what we started with when we signed the extension in early 2020, right before the lockdown. As far as crowd reactions going through the night, I thought it was a great show. I really loved the opener. I thought the Battle Royal was very positively received. It was a great match with a lot of suspense, and I think I've seen some people saying it was one of the best Battle Royals ever, which I think is really great feedback, and very proud of everyone involved in that match, putting it together, and it was a great win for the champion, Orange Cassidy, who's had a lot of great matches, and I thought the crowd reacted very positively to him, but also to a lot of people in that match. There were a lot of moments in the match where I think it was very telling how the crowd reacted, but it was a very positively received match. After that, with Adam Cole and Chris Jericho, I think it was a brutal match. It was very intense. At the end, I think people want to see Adam Cole get more, even though he beat the hell out of Jericho. I think, there's still an appetite for him to get a decisive moment. And then you have Jericho, who's still very upset, threw a fireball backstage and wants another match with Adam Cole in a mixed tag that we are going to have on Wednesday on Dynamite. I think there was a huge reaction to Statlander coming back and winning the championship. I thought that was really what we wanted to see. I was not that surprised, and it was a great question earlier because It was last year, almost exactly 1 year ago here in Las Vegas, where we saw that massive reaction for Statlander right before she got injured, and it really derailed and changed plans. I thought it was great to see her come back and get such a positive reaction. Huge reaction for the last several matches. With the Pillars match, I thought the crowd was really into that, and really good reception for all four of those guys, like I wanted to see. Definitely for the final match, I thought the place was on fire for the final match of the night, so I thought Anarchy in the Arena was a big success. And overall, I really was happy to see a big reaction for the Takeshita reveal. I think that was really positive to hear. The crowd, went crazy and really bid on that. So that was pretty great. So overall, I thought it was strong for some of those big moments. And then as far as the deal going into Collision, I think it puts us in a really interesting place going into next month. Like I was just saying, I think it's one of the most important months business-wise in the history of the company, with the launch of Collision, the launch of AEW Fight Forever, and the Forbidden Door partnership coming up. So it's going to be a huge month, and definitely a lot of our big stars, I thought, really shined tonight. Thanks.
Braxton Selby with We Sports Biz. Vegas is where it all began for this pay-per-view. How special has this weekend been for you and AEW?
What a great question. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, and I appreciate you being here. Hope I haven't kept you up too late. And I know you sat through some great interviews and some nasty people to get to ask the questions. I appreciate it very much. I really am very happy to be back here. It's amazing. Like you said, it was 4 years ago right here in Las Vegas where we really launched AEW. We did our very first ever show, and a lot of you who were here were at that same show. And I thought we had another great show tonight. I thought both shows had some really great highs. They both started out with a great hot match, and then there were some really great matches to close the show and great reactions to close the show. So I thought they were very similar in that respect. So I was very happy that we started hot, closed hot, and had a few classic matches on the back end of the show, just like we did on the very first Double or Nothing. As far as the moments being here back in Vegas, it was fun with a lot of the people who were on the crew to look back and say, like, here we are, it's been 4 years. It's amazing, this is the fifth Double or Nothing. It doesn't feel like it, possibly because for part of the time we were in Jacksonville for the lockdown, so we were doing the show for over a year in Jacksonville, and we actually did 2 Double or Nothing shows in Jacksonville in Daly's Place. I thought they were great shows, but then last year when we came back here, it meant so much. And to be doing our 5th Double or Nothing, and it's the first time we've done the 5th of any of our shows. It's like now the start of the 5th cycle of AEW effectively. It's pretty exciting. So it was a really special memory, and it also showed, kind of like what Bryan Danielson was saying, putting a different spin on it, how the company's changed and grown in a lot of ways, because a lot of the biggest names from the beginning of AEW were still here. In that Anarchy in the Arena match, you saw the best of the beginning of AEW with faces like the Young Bucks and Hangman and Kenny Omega, who've been here from the very first show. John Moxley came out at the end of that first show, but look how the company's changed since then. You've got a young star like Wheeler Yuta, like Brian said, who's started his career in AEW in that time and grown so far. And then we brought in 2 of the greatest free agents any wrestling company could ever bring in, with Claudio Castagnoli and Bryan Danielson. So that match alone exemplifies the growth. And then you look at the 4 Pillars match and see how far they've come in that time. I thought that was really cool. And the opening Battle Royal. We opened the first show 4 years ago with a Battle Royal. The Battle Royal tonight was much better. There was a lot of talent. They both featured 21 wrestlers. There was better talent and bigger names up and down the Battle Royal, and it was a better Battle Royal tonight, and it was tighter. And the show had, similar to the first show, I think there was a lot of high highs, and not everything is going to be perfect in every match, but I thought overall it was a really positive show, like the first Double or Nothing. So that was kind of what I was hoping to live up to, and I think we did. So I was really happy, and it was cool being back here. Thank you for asking.
Brandon Thurston, West Lawrence.
Okay.
With the addition of Collision, it's a 2-hour show you do every week. I have to think that adds probably tens of millions of dollars in the annual expense. So is WBD giving you any extra money to offset that?
Yes, we're definitely being paid for Collision and being paid very well.
In addition to what you were already getting.
Yes, in addition to what the Dynamite and Rampage, we got a new contract. I think it's fair to say it's more money, but it's the same length of time. And I was very excited about it. It was a big opportunity for us. It's certainly a very expensive thing to produce a great 2-hour live TV show, and on the weekend doing it every week. It's not going to be cheap, but it's going to be great. I'm so excited about Collision. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be something really great for AEW. We have something really strong going with AEW Dynamite. We had a really strong TV rating this past week. Get the .32. There's still some tough competition, and I think as the summer goes on, we have an opportunity to get back to where we were last summer. Last summer we were consistently #1 show on cable, #1 or 2 every week. Was it like 17 weeks in a row? I think we were #1 or 2 through the summer last year. So I think we have a chance to have another really hot run through this summer with Dynamite, but then start something really new with Collision. It's a great question. It was a great opportunity for the company to get more revenue, to do more TV, and also grow another brand in addition to what we do with Dynamite and Rampage and now Collision, and have 5 hours of television. So it will be some added production costs, and now we're not producing Dark and Elevation, so there is some cost savings there. But overall, yeah, there will be increased costs, but also it will definitely increase revenue through not only the ticket sales on Saturdays and the merch sales and all those things, but also, through license fees that we're making because of an incremental change, increasing our compensation for Collision. Thanks.
Righteous Rage, Grab City Podcast.
Right.
Great show tonight. You've been talking a lot about Collision. Everybody's been asking a bunch of questions. Elephant in the room. You guys are going to be in Chicago in June 17th. CM Punk going to be there?
I can't tell you that. I think it's a great question, and I am not prepared to address that question at this time, but I think it's a great question. Not unlike questions Corey asked, the very good question to ask, and I think that's something a lot of people want to know. And as we get closer to the launch of Saturday Night Collision on June 17th on TNT, I think more and more things will come into focus about that show. But tickets are on sale for the United Center right now, and we're off to a great start with the initial sale, and I think it's only going to get stronger and could be one of the biggest TV shows of the entire year in terms of revenue, I expect, and also could be one of the most important TV shows of the year for AEW.
Hi, William from Bleach Report. Ask the question that most of us want to ask, but how different was it booking United Center this time around as compared to the first time was Last Dance? And what are the plans this time around that changed?
Well, the first dance was the first time we booked United Center, and then we actually went back, as you remember, for Forbidden Door. So I'm really excited about being back there again for what I hope will be another historic show. Those are both really historic shows. I think the first dance was actually the second episode of Rampage, but I think to come back and have those first few weeks with that kind of great energy, the spirit we captured those first few weeks, it was amazing. I think Collision will be an exciting opportunity. There's some big differences with Rampage. Now Collision's going to be a 2-hour show. Collision is going to be live on Saturday nights, so it's also a weekend show, but it's in this 8 to 10 time slot. It's a really interesting opportunity for us, and I'm very excited about it. Also going to be focusing on doing the show live on a very typical basis. And we've got all these big live Collision events announced, and I think people want to know more about what to expect on Collision and what's going to be on the show, and I think it's good we're building that kind of anticipation and excitement. And I'll tell you, I'm excited. I mean, there are not a lot of people that know what to expect on Collision. I think it's going to be a great show, and it's going to be really good for the company. And to your point, I think it's different going back this time because it's a different precedent, a different kind of history we're starting. It's about a new show, building a new legacy for the company in a new era in many ways, and we're going to keep all the great things we're doing on Dynamite, and we've had some really great episodes in recent weeks. And this year, I think there's been some of the best episodes we've ever done this year. Just a couple shows we've done recently in the past, including in Detroit, and then following up on that. And also, I think the show at the Forum this year earlier was excellent. Just had a lot of great shows. And I expect we can keep the high standard we've been doing on Wednesdays, and hopefully feed and do stronger shows also on Fridays for Rampage as a result. But I know that also what we do at Collision, it's going to be really important, and I'm really excited, and it's crazy. It's only weeks away. It's going to be a big deal. And so it was different booking the United Center this time versus the previous times, but also it's a different thing, because the First Dance was an important event for us. Certainly the inaugural Forbidden Door is a very important event for us, and this launch of Collision is very important. So there's a lot of similarities, but they're all their own unique thing. Thanks.
Over here? Tony, over here.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, so Max was asked about his match not going on last. And he said, well, I don't want to roll around in Moxley's blood, and I think that the world title going on last is antiquated. So I wanted to ask your opinion. Why did you decide to do Anarchy last? Did you always plan on having that go on last? Did you have something like, I'll think about it, day of the show or whatever? What was your mindset as to what went on last tonight?
Well, I always put a lot of thought into it, and I'll go back to the first Double or Nothing we did in Jacksonville, and really both the Double or Nothings we did in Jacksonville, and it was a very similar thought process. The weekend of the show, looking at everything we've built, everything we've put together, and it felt like, I'll go back to the original Stadium Stampede. It felt like Stadium Stampede should go on last, and I remember talking to Moxley and Brody, and certainly they had no issue with that, and they thought doing a double main event would be great, and it was. So John Moxley and Brody had a great main event, and then we went out and had a great double main event with the first ever Stadium Stampede. Then the next year at Double or Nothing, we went out and we had a three-way match with Kenny Omega, Pac, and Orange Cassidy. It was a great classic world title match, and then we followed it up with the second Stadium Stampede. So we've had these big, wild, crazy multi-man matches, and actually when you look at Double or Nothing historically, now this has almost become the norm, because 3 of the 5 Double or Nothing shows you've had with a double main event where you had the world title match, and it was first 2 wrestlers one-on-one with John Moxley, Brody Lee. That's a great match. And then you had the 3-way match the next year as the first part of the double main event with Orange Cassidy, Pac, and Kenny Omega. This year, the great 4-way match with MJF, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara. And in each case, you ended with an amazing multi-person brawl. The Stadium Stampede we did in Jacksonville, different in a lot of ways, really different from what we do with Anarchy in the Arena, but it felt like going back to that, it might be the right way to go, and I think it worked really well. And just like those Double or Nothing shows, ended hot with back-to-back great matches. I thought we did it again tonight and ended with those hot back-to-back matches that's become kind of a theme with Double or Nothing.
Hey, Jack Farmer with Wrestling Inc. We've talked a lot about new shows and the pay-per-view, obviously, but I'm curious about Fight Forever. And when it comes out, what does success look like to you for that game? Is it a sales number? Is it a critical review number? What does success look like for you for the video game coming out?
A number of different factors, and I think having really good sales, having it be positively received, and something that will reflect really well on the company. I think we've grown so much as a company that we're at a point where every step forward we can take, it's really great, but at the same time we've built something that's so big that everything we can do to enhance it is good. But every success, it's rare that we have a success that's so transformative that it transforms the entire company, but this is one of those projects that could potentially really be transformative. I think we have a chance to make a lot of new fans. I think we have a chance to make a ton of money, and I think it has a chance to really help the business. So we have a couple of major projects coming up that have actually been years in the making in AEW Fight Forever and AEW All In. Now they're completely different things. One is a video game, but it's taken years to get to that point, and then one is a live stadium show. But again, it's taken years to get to that point, and We know that AEW All In, at least from a revenue standpoint, is going to be an unprecedented success. And there's still a lot more, like what Corey asked about, as far as how people are going to be able to watch it here if they aren't going over live to the UK. But a lot of people are going to be live at the UK, and that's unprecedented, the number we've done. And I think for Fight Forever, it can really help grow the business. It can be another feather in our cap. And we do great things at AEW every year, and the business has grown and changed every year. But I think this is something really special, and it's certainly a really big opportunity in a number of ways with AEW Fight Forever. So I think how we measure the success, there's a number of different ways, but it can help us a lot of different areas in the company, I think.
Hi Tony, Stephanie Chase from Digital Side. So of course I have to ask you a question about All In. So maybe I'll help you with this one. But you, so you did such huge sales when you started the first week. How have they been going since then? Are you happy with that? And also in the UK, it's turned into a bit of a destination week already. We've got WebPro running, Progress are running. So any chance you're going to add to that with Ring of Honor or Collision taping, or is it important for you for All In to be the actual first UK show?
I am certain it's very important for us, for All In to be AEW's first ever UK show, and that's where we'll start. And it's a monumental event for us in AEW, so I'm very, very excited for it. And yeah, there's a lot of excitement in the UK wrestling community, other events popping up around it, and I think that's great. You know, it's not that unusual for us, to be honest. I think our big pay-per-view events, we've started to see that. I know there were other wrestling events here in Las Vegas featuring some great wrestlers this weekend, and there'll be events, I'm sure, in Toronto, and there's always events typically around Chicago All Out. So I'm not, I'm not surprised that there's a lot of excitement in the UK about it, but I think it's a big thing. And then for ticket sales, I haven't released a new figure yet, but it's this will be the first time I've said it. I think we're roughly 65,000. It's very exciting, and we're well over the 8 million mark, and I think the exchange rate, sometimes that changes with pounds. When I say that, I mean $8 million going on a $9 million gate that we're closing in on. And it's very, very exciting for the company. It's a huge, huge milestone. It's by far the biggest gate in the history of AEW, and it's one of the biggest gates in the history of professional wrestling. It's, I believe, the largest gate ever in England for pro wrestling, and soon we will close in and have the biggest gate ever in the UK, period, for professional wrestling, because if the record was set in Wales. So, and...
if you're, Wales is 8.1. You get that?
8.1?
8.1.
Oh, okay, so we set the record. We did it. So 8.1 million pounds or dollars?
Dollars.
Oh, yeah, then we set the record. Okay, so we set the record. Biggest ever in the UK. Thank you. I didn't expect that. Thanks, Dave.
1,008.1 million was Wales.
Great. Okay, well, we've set the biggest record for UK ticket sales ever for a pro wrestling event. Then we're well over 8.1.
Also, biggest non-WrestleMania in the history of wrestling.
That is very cool. That is very cool. Thank you. So it is one of the biggest events in the history of wrestling now, and I think it, as far as first day, first week sales, it's up there, and we still have a lot of time left. Haven't announced anything on the card yet, so I think sky's the limit, and it's very, very big for the company. But in terms of the business, it's been certainly unprecedented, not just for AEW's business, but honestly in the wrestling business, for anybody to do this. Thank you.
Tony, so I was curious, we were talking about the sales and the numbers and this and that. So what was your initial goal for All In?
It's a great question. I always knew we could beat 50,000, and I wasn't sure we were going to beat 50,000 the first weekend, but I always believed we'd get to 50 to 60,000, and then we're well over 60 now, and about 65,000, I'd say, and I think that is amazing, and that's to have 65,000 paid fans and have months literally to still sell tickets. It's amazing. So definitely exceeded my expectations, but I always knew we would sell over 50, and I believed we would sell over 60, but I was really pleased we've already done that. Thank you.
Hey Tony, Dominic D'Angelo after shows. Very well told stories tonight, I thought. I wanted to kind of get your thought process on how it's been. It's been 4 years, obviously, and a lot of growing pains, a lot of positive stuff going on too. Wanted to kind of think
what do you think that you creatively something that you can improve on, but also what do you think that you really exceed at too?
Well, it's a great question. I think we can always refine and look and try to tighten things up, and sometimes everything fires perfectly, and other times, you look back and you say, what can I learn from this? And we've had a lot of strong shows this year where everything fired just about perfect, and tonight in the big matches, the big moments, I thought for whether it was the battle royal that started the show or the matches that ended the show, really it was very, very high note where it was just about as perfect as I could have hoped for that first match and those last few matches. So I was really pleased with the show. I think as far as what we can do going forward, the company's growing and changing a lot. I mean, we were a company that did 3 hours of TV live, 2 hours, and 1 hour that was often taped, sometimes live. But really, we only did 3 hours of TV a week for the last year plus. In the first couple years, we were doing 2 hours of TV a week. So to go to doing 5 hours, it's something we've never done before. It's going to really be a learning experience for us, but I'm also very, very excited about it because I think we have really exciting plans for it. I think the shows will be really good, and we've had some really strong dynamites this year, especially in recent weeks, some of our best episodes ever. And I think the pay-per-view tonight had some of the best action we've ever had in AEW. And when you're doing Double or Nothing, there's a really high expectation that you're going to put great stuff on the show, and there was a lot of great stuff on the show tonight, so I was very happy. So I'm one of the most critical, harsh people, and we'll certainly go back and take it apart and try and find things we can do better, and I think that's consistent with our approach, but overall I'm really happy with the work we're doing, and I think we have a lot of really great people, the wrestlers and the staff, and our fans who came together to make it a really good night for the company. So thanks, I appreciate it. And there's a lot of smart people that were involved in getting together and putting a great show together tonight. Really, I thought I'm pretty happy about it. And I have to say, going into the next month, it's good timing for us to put on a good show that was very successful for us because there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up in June for AEW. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Corey.
All right, I actually do have a question that I was just thinking about while I was here, and this one I think you can answer. How did it feel to invite Dr. Martha Hart here for the announcement, the opening ceremony for the Owen Hart Cup, and then also the fact that the finals will be at the Calgary Stampede, which is a pretty famous. That's where Stu Hart was run big shows, as well as obviously the famous Canadian Stampede show in 1997 was kind of in that area as well.
Yeah. Same venue, right? Yeah, same venue.
Same venue, the Saddle Dome. And also in regards to the reaction to the fans for Dr. Martha Hart, especially considering all that she has gone through in the past 20 years. And how do you feel about that? And basically in regards to making history in that sense, that you will be going to Calgary to crown the second ever.
I think it's very cool for the company that our Canadian tour will coincide with the Owen Hart Cup. I think it's very fitting that we've got Forbidden Door coming up, and Owen Hart is a former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. So there's a great history that goes with Owen Hart in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He never competed in AEW, but he did compete in New Japan. So having the Owen Hart Cup tournament kick off in Canada around Forbidden Door, we have this great partnership with New Japan, and he has been a great champion for them. So I think it's very fitting, and it adds a new twist to the Owen Hart Cup. Also, to have it in his home country, Canada, where he's one of the greatest wrestlers ever. His family, probably the greatest wrestling family in the history of Canada. And I have to say that going back to Calgary in a venue where there's so much history for the Hart family, it's very exciting. Dr. Martha Hart is such a wonderful, warm person. My dad met Martha tonight and really enjoyed meeting her, and she really seemed to enjoy meeting him. Oj has spent a little more time around my family. Oj actually came to the Jaguars game at Wembley last year, and Oj just studied in London and is a really, really bright young guy. And to have Martha and Oj and the Hart family here, it was great. And Dr. Martha Hart deserves the warm reception from the crowd, and I was really pleased that she got it. And we have great fans in AEW, and they gave her a great reception. And I think people are excited about the Owen in Canada. It's very fitting, the finals in Calgary. And, I'm not sure about this. I've had some nice talks. I'm hopeful. I spoke to New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think it would be great, and they think it would be great. One of Owen Hart's great opponents, a rival. They've competed. Both former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champions. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could get Jushin Thunder Liger over to Canada, who's competed against Owen Hart, and he's competed in Canada, and he's even competed in Stampede Wrestling, Jushin Liger, and that would be something really neat. So to coincide with AEW in Canada and Forbidden Door and our partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and most importantly the Owen Hart Cup tournament, I think it would be great if Jushin Thunder Liger can come over, and I'm optimistic that he'll be able to. So thank you for asking.
Loved your hat, by the way, when you came out too.
Thank you. That was a gift from Martha. The hat was that was her hat, and she wanted to say the gangster line too. So God bless her.
Brand versus Muslims again. Introduction for Collision comes on pretty short notice. At least to us, it was introduced at the WWE upfront a few weeks ago, and it's already going to debut mid-June. Is there anything more you can tell us about what led up to that deal happening? What led up to this show happening? We talked a little bit on Thursday about it was David Zasloff who came to you wanting the deal. So just how did that come together?
Well, we had a call recently. I mean, relatively recent, in recent months, from the top executives at Warner Brothers Discovery interested in expanding the partnership, and they offered us 2 hours on Saturday night, and it was like kind of a throwback to me as a wrestling executive when you hear they want to give you 2 hours primetime on TNT every week. That's a big deal, and when it's not just when it's the big boss, that is a callback to another era, and that's pretty amazing because it was through relationships and through a lot of trust. When I was unproven as a promoter and AEW had never run a single show, when Warner Brothers, WME at the time, took a chance on AEW, but now the company's changed. It's Warner Brothers Discovery. It's such an exciting time for Warner Brothers Discovery, and to have the boss of the entire studio, the boss of the entire company, David Zasloff, take an interest in AEW and say, I think we should have 2 hours of AEW Saturday night, 8 p.m. on TNT every week. I thought that was awesome, and then that made me want to step up and do another great show, and I love doing Dynamite every week, and it's my life, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but I really believe we can do another show and do Dynamite just as great, and maybe even fuel and do better shows than we've ever done before, and show up on Saturday nights and do great shows on Collision. And I am optimistic that it can actually be the greatest period in the history of the company. I think we were uniquely set up for this. I have a big roster of wrestlers. As far as how I'm going to feature them, nobody here has asked me about the mechanics of where the roster is going to go, or how I would allocate them to the different shows, and there's words that haven't been used in any of it. I'm glad. Thank you for not asking. How I'll address the allocation of the different wrestlers across the different shows. We'll be speaking to that in the weeks to come, but I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be great, and I promise you won't lose anything from Dynamite. Dynamite's going to be just as great or better, but also Collision is going to be a really great show, and hopefully this will be the best period for AEW ever. So specifically to your question, I was really excited about that. I thought it came at a great time for the company. And knowing that June is going to be such a big month for us with the launch of Fight Forever and Forbidden Door and this tour of Canada and all the exciting things we have coming up, and where we're going over this summer, thinking we can take that June and hopefully parlay this momentum to get even stronger going into All In, which is such an important business milestone and just historic milestone for the company. I was really excited about it, and like you said, it came together very quickly. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. I couldn't pass up on it.
A few more for Tony.
Tony Andres from 40 Minutes.
Hey.
Vegas has been a destination here. It's also Memorial Day weekend, which presents a lot of challenges because there's a lot going on. One, is Double or Nothing going to remain in Vegas? Is that something that you're considering? And two, if so, is there things that you want to build around this. I know there's the fan fest, but to make this like an annual thing where there's much more than just wrestling. There's more interactive. There's a lot more things that are going on in Vegas at the time.
Well, I guess a partnership with the UFC is out. But I would say that, you know, I love Las Vegas. I really have had such a great experience this week and all the shows we've done here, and I think this is a great venue for it. I haven't decided about next year's pay-per-views yet, for any of them yet, but I think this is always a great venue for Double or Nothing, and certainly would be potentially great to just come back here to T-Mobile and do that. But there's a lot of great places certainly that are seeking our services, and you know, there's some places we've done TVs this year where they've been calling out for a pay-per-view, and I thought it was a pretty realistic shout, so something to consider. But certainly this has been a great venue for us, and I really love doing it here at T-Mobile, so I'm very open to staying here.
One other question
Please.
is Anarchy in the Arena, is that going to be something that is a staple moving forward? Because 2 years in a row, Double or Nothing back to back. I don't know if it stays Double or Nothing, but it feels like something that's very unique to AEW.
Well, so it's 4 years in a row of either Stadium Stampede or Anarchy in the Arena. And when we did Stadium Stampede was a product of doing Double or Nothing in Jacksonville. And that was one of those innovations we thought really added. The first Double or Nothing was a great show, but then we added something the next couple years with Stadium Stampede we thought really worked. And then things were really cooking last year with the BCC and Jericho Appreciation Society, the Pro Wrestling and Sports Entertainment, and it was a really hot time for it. And it felt like we wanted to bring it here, but it was a much better play to bring it to the arena versus doing it in the stadium in Jacksonville. And we were long past doing a cinematic match. I mean, this is the way we want to do it. This probably just out with the fans, brawling in the crowd, brawling in the ramp, brawling, on the ring. And so we brought Anarchy in the Arena here, and then this year so it's really the 4th year in a row at Double or Nothing that we've had this wild event. I think here certainly it would be Anarchy in the Arena, and if we ever were to do it in a stadium, then I think it would be Stadium Stampede. So it works both ways.
A few more questions for Tony. Here you go. Can you pass that back? Thank you.
Cool, thanks. Hi, Tony. Matt Carlins, Wrestling Inc. Getting back to Collision, do you have any goals, expectations regarding TV ratings for those shows, and how do you think it will compare to Dynamite?
It's a great question. Really, at this point, we only have the shows we've done on Saturdays to go off of, and we've had some good events on Saturdays, but I think it's different because we've never really locked in a time slot. So I'm really optimistic. I would think it could do better than the best Dynamites on Saturdays. So we've had Saturday night Dynamites, and I look at those ratings, and I think, well, we've done some really good numbers on those Saturdays, and if we lock in a time slot and say we're doing this every week, then I think we can do those numbers or better, and especially knowing that it's going to be a fixed time slot. So I'm super optimistic, and I think Dynamite, we're going to keep doing the great shows we've been doing, and I believe the show can get stronger and stronger. Last week was a great rating, and going into the summer, like I was saying, with some of the sports competition and some of the reality competition changing and opening up, I think it's going to be a great time for Dynamite, and then feed off that momentum with a second show with Collision, as far as two 2-hour live shows, and keep Rampage going. And I really believe this can get the roster going and help get Rampage strong too. So as far as the ratings, I'm not sure because we haven't really had that much experience on Saturdays, but what we have had, we've had good ratings at times on Saturdays for doing Dynamites, Rampages, Battle of the Belts, and I really believe we can do even better than those. And those have been successful experiments that were so successful that they said, why don't we give you 2 hours every Saturday? And so I think that's going to bode really well for us, especially with all the great stuff we have planned for Collision.
Just a couple more here. Anyone who didn't ask questions?
Yeah, you haven't got you.
Hey Tony, how's it going? Adrian Hernandez, Odyssey Sports. I know you talked to a million people, but I want to thank you when tickets went on sale. We had a phone interview. In that phone interview, I'd asked you about someone who's very familiar to Turner and TNT who would become a free agent, which is Goldberg. Obviously, All In, a lot of eyes, a lot of people are going to be in the building. I just want to know, since that, which was about 6 or 7 weeks ago, have you had a conversation with him just about anything, and nothing in particular, but just a conversation with him?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be that unusual. I've talked to Bill when he's not been under contract at times, and have a good relationship with Bill. So I have had a good conversation with him, but I've had a lot of great conversations with Bill. You know, Bill's family have done a lot of great things in Jacksonville. Bill's related to the Wolfson family, who built the Wolfson's Children's Hospital in Jacksonville, and Bill's great former football star, and I work in football, and it's a big part of my life. So we have a lot in common, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and I have a really good relationship with Bill, so I like him a lot. As to what I've talked to him about, I would say that's just between the two of us. But I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. And it was a good chat. I like Bill a lot. He's a great guy. Thank you. I haven't got you all day.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, Tony. Joe Camparelli. Hey, Joe. Just with release of a new show, more TV time, video game, bigger gates, have you sensed a bigger sense of competition or intensity amidst the talent backstage?
I think it's an exciting time. It's always really competitive, and it's gotten more and more competitive. It was, when we were doing the show in Daly's Place, which is kind of a small set, I think it took on maybe the mindset of a territory at times. We were doing the same place every week. A lot of the same fans were coming in because we were the first place to really open up and have fans in every week, but they were a lot of the people coming in Jacksonville. So like when you do a territory studio wrestling show, it took on that identity a little bit, I thought. And the crew really was very tight-knit. And then going back on the road, I think it was hard. And then around the time we went back on the road, a lot of the biggest names in pro wrestling showed up around the same time. And like Brian Danielson, who's one of the people I'm referring to, he came here and he saw the company and he's seen it grow and he's grown with it. And a lot of the stars have grown and changed in that time. Like you said, the company has hit new milestones, so it's a great question. Like you said, record gates, we're going into new places for the first time, visiting new towns, and the video game's coming out. So it's a very, very transformative year, and on top of all of it, now with Collision starting, which is weeks away, on June 17th, every Saturday we're gonna have a show. It's gonna change my life, I know that, and I'm excited about it. And for a lot of wrestling fans, it maybe not change everyone's life, but certainly it's going to affect their week. It's going to affect the way they think about their week, and I'm excited about that. That's pretty cool. And I believe the company's changing, but I think this is a great opportunity. It's very competitive. It has been. It was competitive in Daly's Place, but I think when we went back on the road, things got a little more competitive as it opened up, and maybe everyone became a little less familiar. And I think now is a really exciting time because it's been competitive for all the spots on 3 hours of TV. We've got people coming in. We're bringing some stars back you haven't seen recently. That's no secret. We've talked about that. It's the creative concepts, the advertising. We've featured some people in the ads who you haven't seen on AEW TV recently, and I think that's exciting. So there's going to be competition for spot in the 5 hours, but there was already a lot of competition for spots in the 3 hours. So I think it's going to stay competitive, but in some ways this should and has, I believe, made a lot of people feel good that it's more opportunities for them. Maybe it's a little bit more realistic for these people who've really been working so hard to get a chance on TV. I think now there's a little bit more light at the end of that tunnel. They see, hey, this could work out for me. This is a big opportunity for me if I play my cards right and work really hard. Thank you.
Two more for anyone who hasn't asked. Hey Tony, John Archuleta with Screen Rant. First of all, thank you for your time and thank you for this amazing show tonight. I'm wondering about AEW All Access. What your impressions were of that show? Will there be a season 2? The show seemed to really give Sammy Guevara and Britt and Adam a boost. So I was wondering what your thoughts on the show were.
Thank you for asking. I thought AEW All Access went really well. It was very positively received by our network bosses. I don't know yet what the status will be for future seasons, but I think how well the show performed bodes well. It held up well throughout the season, and then we had a really nice bump for the season finale. So to go off with a high note, and I think it did a .12, which was great, and for the last episode. So it started hot and ended hot, so hopefully bodes well for the show for the future. I would certainly be up to do another season, future seasons, and profile some of the great wrestlers we've already introduced and potentially some different people in addition. So I really enjoyed working on All Access, and I would love to do that again. Thank you.
Last question.
Hey Tony, Amy Nemedy with WrestleJoy. Congratulations on a great show. So when we look at Double or Nothing, we have to talk about where it all began. You know, in Las Vegas, you've had an incredible, this is your 5th Double or Nothing, you've had an incredible time with a lot of achievements in AEW. And I was curious if that goes into how you book Double or Nothing, the show. So for example, tonight during the Four Pillars match, we had a lot of moments where each of the 4 pillars used moves that their mentors had used, for example, or we had spots in Anarchy in the Arena that called back to the very first Double or Nothing. So I was curious, when you book Double or Nothing, do you look back and reflect on the history of AEW and big spots and moments, and specifically book the show to call back and kind of tell a story of celebration of AEW?
Yeah, not every single match, but there were definitely moments in the card where the whole 4 pillars match in and of itself is looking back at the history of AEW, and then, like you said, when they started hitting their mentors' moves, that was a great signature moment and a signature match that really called back to the history of AEW. Anarchy in the Arena is a match that has history, and like I said, it's evolved from Stadium Stampede, and as our fans came back, Stadium Stampede evolved from year 1 to year 2, where we brought it back and actually brought it out into the live arena, which nobody was expecting, and then from that it evolved into Anarchy in the Arena when we moved back into the live arenas every week. And I think there were a lot of callbacks to the history of AEW in that match, and very fitting to go back to the first Double or Nothing, where AEW really started. The very first show we did was here in Vegas, and that show ended culminating with Jon Moxley arriving in AEW and throwing Kenny Omega off the giant poker chips, and then tonight, here they were back out there again on the Double or Nothing set. So it was a great callback, in Anarchy in the Arena even. It's interesting because the violence and intensity of the Blackpool Combat Club, even looking how they changed over a year, because Brian said he wanted to look at the intensity, but I think that's probably because when Brian looks within himself, he doesn't want to admit now he's grown a lot over a year. But the fact is, Brian was the one who stopped him from stopped Eddie from setting Chris on fire last year. And now, at where Brian's at right now, I think Brian would have probably lit the match. So I think that also showed growth. It's maybe not growth, but it definitely showed evolution and change in Brian. And then in the opening battle royal, which was so great and I really enjoyed it, I thought there were a lot of callbacks to great historical moments, not just the rivalries in AEW right now, seeing, of course, Swerve and Keith going at it, and with Brian Cage and Dustin getting involved as they have in that recently, or with Juice and Jay and Ricky Starks, and keeping that situation going, and it's an interesting thing happening there, but also going back to old rivalries. Just an example, Orange Cassidy and Kip were going at it, and they've had a lot of battles, whether it was a different arcade anarchy, and where Statlander referenced that earlier when she made her return, jumping out of the stuffed animals, and really how that evolved and changed. And then Orange and Kip, that rivalry had gone into the All Atlantic Championship, and they'd had that great match, and Orange, from the All Atlantic Championship to the International Championship, has made a lot of defenses, and I think you actually noted earlier some of his top opponents and some of his best matches as the champion during this great run he's had. They came face to face with him in this match, dealing with Lee, and in particular Big Bill near the end, and like I said, Kip Sabian, and a lot of great stuff, and of course how he's wrestled Bandito and then became a great partner with Bandito and the Best Amigos. I thought that was great. So a lot of great callbacks, a lot of great moments. Jay White eliminating Commander. I thought Commander had a great showcase early in the match, but then his elimination was a callback to Jay White's debut in AEW. So yeah, there's a lot of thought put into the show, I think. And if ever you're going to look back at the history of the company and try to put those kind of moments in for the fans, this is where you want to do it, here where it all started. So I thought that was very, very cool. Well, it's great being with you all. I really appreciate everybody. Thank you for all staying here, and I appreciate everybody coming to cover the show. You know, without all of you, this really wouldn't be possible. When we started AEW, a lot of you were covering the company when it was just an idea. We had never done an event yet, and then a lot of you were at the first Double or Nothing when there was no track record whatsoever other than the great work the wrestlers had done before they came to AEW. So I just wanted to thank you all, and really from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. It means a lot, and a lot of you had a lot to do with us getting off the ground, so thank you.